Hey, how are you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about ancient Gallic and British Celt armies. So I was inspired to do this video when I've been assembling some of my SPQR models from the starter set. You might have seen the unboxing video I did the other day. Now I've done an ancient British army before, and that was just as the new Warlord plastics came out. And I've decided to do a wee bit more 28mm ancient wargaming as a bit of a palette cleanser between other videos. Now, one of the things I would like to point out is a resource I picked up years ago, which has really helped me for ancient battles. And there's a few more in the series that I've also picked up, which is this fella here, which is a great wee book, which has line drawings of different soldiers from ancient period, but also in their text descriptions about the armor and equipment you're looking at. So what I've done with the box set is, if you're canny, you're able to get some different unit types out of the basic box set from Warlord games. And the other thing I've done, and I'm going to show this off as well, is I've picked up some Victrix. So I've got at least one each of all the sprues from Victrix as well. And I wanted to see how well I could kit bash those, how well they went size-wide, and to add some variety to the units. So first thing we'll talk about is the Celtic armies, ancient British armies, Gallic armies, I'll use the terms interchangeably, generally fought in warbands. So you had a levy of troops come together. Now the swords were a wealthy status weapon. Most of the levy would actually use spears of some description. So one of the things you think about when you're building it is you want at least an equal amount of spears and swords in the units if you want it to be truly heroic. I always think swords look better than spears. The other thing is armor. So chainmail and helmets, again, they were expensive, so there'd be fewer of those. So in your normal units, you want less chainmail and more guys just equipped, just dressed in regular clothes, be that tunics or bare-chested, as you can see some of the guys here. So most rule sets will have a unit which is like a warlord's retinue, and that is the one I would kind of plumb with loads of swords and loads of chainmail armoured troops. For the regular units, like I say, you want significantly less chainmail, more regular stuff as well. Now my plans are, I'm going to mount these guys. As you can see, these guys are mounted on coins. For me, it's I think the cheapest way to get round circular discs for wargaming. So I'm going to get the bases for Infamy, and war bases do them with 2p inserts, so I'm going to get those. So warband units are 10 men strong, and light units are 6 strong. Cavalry is 6 strong, and chariots are 2 strong for units. And with that as well, I'll be able to take the fellas off and use them for various individual skirmish games, be that SPQR, or I was thinking about maybe doing some adaptation of the Lord of the Rings rules, which is one of my favourite sets of skirmish games. Infamy, obviously. And also, if you use the Infamy bases, the Britain supplement for Hail Caesar talks about using smaller units, and as long as the base sizes are consistent with each other, I could use a block of 10 as a unit in Hail Caesar as well, and that way it'd be quite cost effective to get some decent Hail Caesar armies together. So as I said, the main unit will be the levy infantry, which will be a random assortment of guys, mainly without chainmail and a good mix of spears and swords. The Warlord unit, that's going to be more heavy chainmail troops, but there was also light units. Now there were 3 primary light units, and most rule sets will have rules to be able to use these. And they're bow armed troops, javelin armed troops, and slingers. So bow armed troops were quite a rarity in Celtic armies. Certainly there is evidence that Vercingetorix had a corps of woodland hunters for bow armed troops. And actually, the 12 bow armed troops you get in the SPQR box set, that's probably enough bow armed troops for what you'll need. Now, I've started to do a wee bit of converting some sprues and glues, plastic, kit bashing to make some slingers. So the SPQR box set comes with some Caesarian Romans, and the Pilum set comes with Pilum or slingers. So I've picked up a second box of Pilum and slingers, not Pilum, Gladius and slinger. The Gladius box set comes with the slingers. And as you can see, what I've done here is cut off at the hand when it focuses. So cut off at the edge of the tunic, the hand that was, chop the hand with the slinger because it comes with a bit of an arm, and just plastic glued it on. And you can get some pretty good poses on those as well. The other thing it comes with is a slouch pouch for shot. And I think that's quite important for the units. And you get some pretty interesting looking poses together. So I was quite pleased with those as well. In fact, I'll come and talk about the details on the Warlord sprues. One of the things I've done when I've been attaching some of the hands, you'll see are open hands. So when I've decided to put a shield in, just chopped a bit off the end of a spear and kind of glued it in for a handle. So yeah, I'm quite pleased with how those slingers. So between the two guys I got in the SPQR box set and the extra slings from the box set I got from Warlord Games, the extra box of 20, I've been able to do 10 slingers. So I'll give a couple of maybe Javelin or sword armed troops, and that is the 2 units of 6 slingers done. Now the other thing you can do straight from the box set without too much conversion is Javelin units. So Javelin, basically light infantry that throw the javelins. So this shield, for example, the shield arm with the 2 javelins, you probably carry extra javelins into battle. Javelins, you'll see, have got the point on as well. I've also played around with some of the Victrix. So this fella here is one of the Victrix models. Throwing javelins. And the Victrix guys do tend to be stood a bit more upright. So they are slightly taller than the Warlord miniatures, but for an irregular unit like these, that's not going to matter too much. So close up on some of my painted ones. So lightly armed troops. The other thing I'm going to go for is the sort of more youngish looking faces. The Javelin and Slinger troops, they'd either be thrust in front of the warbands, harrying the enemy, or hanging around at the sides. They weren't the sort of seasoned veterans that would be fighting in the warbands. So those units there, the bows, the javelins, and the slingers, are also quite easy to do. I've actually got a box of the Victrix Chariots and the mounted cavalry as well for the Gauls. So I can use the Chariots for the nobles in an ancient British list, or swap them out for the heavily armoured Gallic cavalry for a Gaul list as well. The Gauls didn't tend to use Chariots. They were a bit antiquated by them, but Britain being its own island tended to have more antiquated warriors. As well, the Brits, I always like to represent the Brits with the sort of this hair here. What certain tribes did was use lime on the hair to really spike it back. And again, because the Gauls as a warrior nation with warrior technology were actually quite advanced with their weapons, chainmail and armour. And the Romans actually copied a lot of it, whereas say, the ancient Brits were a bit more antiquated. The Gauls had stopped using chariots, the Brits still did. And you see some of the Victrix infantry. And I think this fella here is a Warlord, and I haven't put that wee bit of plastic in I was talking about, which I will do. I think this is a Warlord guy with a Victrix head. I think they work quite well. So I was just going to point out a few things with the sprues as well. So the Warlord sprues. Let's see if I can zoom out whilst it's... Oh, yes, I can. Zoom out whilst it's going. So this is a Warlord sprue. So on this side, we've got 4 shields. There's 10 sets of legs and 10 bodies on. This is a command one. So you've got caranx. I don't know how it's pronounced. A couple of standards, some severed heads. Don't get any heads on this sprue. So what happens in a normal box set of 40, you'll get 3 of the other sprue, and the other sprue's got 15 heads on. I'll show you that in a minute. That will do the 45 heads, so you get some spare heads in the box. For SPQI, you get some extra heads and some resin cast shields. Because the other thing is, with 4 shields and 10 bodies, you don't get enough shields for everybody. I've got some spare plastic shields off the Victrix ones. The Victrix ones generally have a few extra shields and a few extra heads, so that's not too much of an issue for me. And again, in a group, I'll have the more heavily armed troops at the front with shields and armour, and maybe a couple of guys with just spears and no shields at the back. So this is the other sprue. So the one I've just showed you, basically got like the command sprue. So again, pretty much the same layout. The weapons are the same. I'll spin it round. Weapons are the same, bodies are the same, but instead of the command banners and caranx, there's the heads there as well. Now when you're assembling these, now the first time I assembled these, I did make a wee mistake. What you'll see is there's 4 bare torsos, 4 torsos and tunic, and 4 torsos and chainmail. So if you look at the legs, there are 2 legs where you'll see a bit of chainmail off the belt. So they obviously match up with the chainmail bodies. Then there are 4 legs where you see a bit of tunic at the top. They obviously are for the bodies with the tunics. And again, set of trousers without any tunic or chainmail. And they're for the bare bodies as well. Bare torsos as well. First time I just jumped in and started building this stuff, I hadn't looked at that, so I did make a few mistakes. And just because I've got it out here, now I did have the Fanatic sprue and the regular Gauls sprue, but I've already chopped those up and started working with them. So this is the heavy armoured Gauls, so these will make your nobles more elite unit. So you can see 4 chainmail or armour, individual bases, because these guys can also go on the chariot kit. There were 6 shields there, a variety of swords, tons of heads, scabbards as well. So if you've got a sword-armed man, all you do is just chop the top of the sword and glue your scabbard on. If you've got a spear man, you don't need to chop the top of the sword, and you just put the scabbard on. See, the Victrix stuff, I'm liking the look of those as well. I mean, I like the Warlord models. The early Victrix stuff, I mean, I've painted up tons of it, like for Napoleonics, but the later Victrix stuff is much better. And this is a Victrix command sprue. So again, you see a couple of heavily armoured bodies, regular body. You've got your banners, a couple of banner choices there, cockerel and boars, a couple of symbols, ton of different heads, crests for the helmets, caranx, I'll never get it right, and horn as well. Now, one of the things I haven't seen on any of these sprues is Ancient Britons. There's some classic artwork. In fact, it is on the cover of this book. Is this helmet here with the kind of horns sticking out as well. I've not seen that in any of the models in plastic. So Warlord games, you'll get 40 sort of Celt models for 22 quid. There's an Ancient British pack for 25, which I think you'll get some metal or resin heads on. I'll pop some images. Oh, this is another reference book I've had. This shows off the light infantry, so slingers, bows, javelin here, and just a general light infantry troop. So if you check my light infantry, a lot of them I've used the bare torsos to represent that. So yes, so 40 Celts for £25, which actually makes the SPQR box a real steal as well at the price. Victrix vary in prices, but they've got a deal on. If you were going to do a Celtic or Gallic army, they've got a deal on the website at the moment, which is one of each one of the plastic boxes they do, which is the Naked Fanatics, Armoured Warriors, Regular Warriors, Chariots and Cavalry, and that comes in £100, which I think is decent value. That's pretty much all the models you're going to need for games like Infamy and Skirmishing and stuff as well. And actually, I don't have any with us at the moment, but there are the other unit type which you didn't mention, Naked Fanatics, and they're basically Celts without any clothes on. So there we go. That's my thoughts and some comments and some ideas for converting up some Celts, not making the mistakes I did, showing off what I'm doing. When the army's done, I'll do another video as a wee showcase for those as well. If you've got any questions as ever, do shop them in the comments. I always like answering questions, talking about stuff, learning stuff. I mean, there's a whole lot, a bit more about Celts I could talk about at length. It's a bit of a passion project of mine. But, oh, actually, I will mention a couple of things. Painting. So, checks. If this will focus. Checks are dead easy. Just make sure you're darker colour, and when you put it on, make sure it's nice and thin. I've used contrast paints on this, and the thinner it is, the easier it is to flow on the thing you're painting. And that's not a particularly neat check when you look at it, but from a distance, I think it looks pretty good. So there you go, that's a yellow check. And again, it's not particularly neat when you start looking at it, but it has a pretty decent impact. Let's now get a wee bit better. Bold stripes. It's sort of brown ones again. And even those, the stripes, they're not checked, so it's quite easy to do and they look pretty effective. You'll notice my shields as well. Got no designs on, so it's quite dark. You can't quite see the stuff on the trousers there. So there's pretty good shield transfers. So I am going to have a session where I sit down and do a load of transfers for the models. And I had previously done hand-painted designs, and I'm not great at hand-painted designs. Transfers are dead easy. I will do, or decals as they're also known, I will do a video talking about those as well. Actually, basing's pretty easy. For 28mm models, we actually got some sand off the beach, dried it out, actually put it in the oven to kill any wee bugs or anything that might be in it. And I get different size pieces. So you can see the bigger pieces I've painted grey, and the regular stuff I've painted, that's like Steel Legion drab, and a wee dry brush over top of something lighter as well. But I'll do a video talking about that. I think just having that wee bit of extra colour on the bases as well stands it out. And I do always plan to come round and do a wee bit of static grass as well. So there we go. As I was saying before, this is the end of the video. So that's my thoughts so far, so what I'm working on. I will do a bit of show and tell when I maybe have any more learning points from the Chariots or from the cavalry. And when it's all painted, I'll show it off as well. And with the movement trays as well, and let you know how I'm getting on. But anyway, I hope you're having a great time wargaming at the moment. Let us know how you're getting on, and like I said before, any questions you've got, give us a shout. I'd love to hear from you. That's bye for now. You have a great day. Bye.